What's up, what's up? It's time for Done Way Past Funny with your host, G.D. Fenderson. Join us as we take a look back at the early works of seasoned comedians before they were seasoned with this week's guest, Stephen the Sitcom Ortiz. It's time to get down and get dope with Done Way Past Funny. Hi, I'm G.D. Fenderson, Certified Forensic Humourist and host of Done Way Past Funny. Thank you for joining us as we continue our interview with comedian Stephen the Sitcom Ortiz. Enjoy. Now, my wife will quite often, like the last show I did, I headlined, and my wife was in the audience, and she says to me, "There's a lot of stuff I hadn't heard before." And first of all, that's by design. I don't tell my wife my new material because I want it to be fresh to her. And I told her I do not like pity laughs. I do not like that. Oh, he's my husband. Isn't he cute? I don't like that. I can't stand that. If I'm not funny, don't laugh. Plain and simple. Yeah. And so, and the thing is, like, when my wife will watch. Okay, I do a thing called critical joke theory every week where I do headlines to punchlines. You know, it's just basically I do the news with snark. That's it.
Wait, you do that? I thought the Reverend did that.
No, I do critical joke theory. The Reverend does the Church of Last Resort.
Oh, that's right. My bad. Sorry. You guys all look the same to me. So.
And so, and my wife will go. My wife has said she'll say, "I'm gonna go watch critical joke theory." I said, "Okay, fine." It's like 15 minutes. And she'll do this, and I know she found something funny.
Yep.
She goes, and she'll. I said, "Okay, that's funny." She's,
and my wife has two laughs. She has the and then she has the belly full on loud obnoxious laugh. There's no in between, and it pisses me off because I get the sometimes. But the fucking TikTok comedians get the motherfuckers.
But my wife, the other thing is my wife tries to tell jokes. She tries to make me laugh. And the thing is, and she gets upset when I don't laugh. And I told her.
Does your wife go, whatever, I'm funny?
No, she goes, I'm just trying to make you laugh because you make everybody else laugh. And I just like to hear you laugh. And the thing is,
oh, that's so sweet.
That's stupid. No, I'm just kidding.
So sweet. My wife just goes, whatever, I'm funny. And I'm okay. I don't know how to react to that, but
well, the thing is, my wife doesn't understand. I didn't become a comedian because I was funny. I was funny by accident growing up. I was not funny on purpose. The closest thing to being funny on purpose was when I was about 5 or 6 years old. My brother and I both got caught stealing from the store, and we were punished for a week. We had to stay in our rooms, and we shared a room. And my brother was 2 years older than me and about 100 pounds bigger. And he said to me, I'm not gonna make it a week. I'm gonna get bored. And he looked at me, he goes, "Make me laugh or I'm gonna punch you in the face." Okay, that was my introduction. Yeah, no pressure. Make me laugh or I'm gonna punch you in the face. And the only thing, and I didn't know any jokes. I only knew what made me laugh. And I was a good impressionist back then. And so I was doing impressions of the Marx Brothers. Because my brother didn't watch the Marx Brothers. He watched Three Stooges. Totally different, Three Stooges of boink, boink, a lot of slap, but Marx Brothers was really kind of like highbrow and stuff. And so my brother didn't watch Marx Brothers. So I would do like Marx Brothers sketches in their voices. And then after a while, my brother was like, okay, it's not funny anymore. Make me laugh, or I'm gonna punch you in the face. And so I created a new Marx Brother character called Charcoal Marx. Sorry. It was Darko Marx. It wasn't Charcoal. Charcoal came later. But Darko Marx, because I don't know, people are very familiar with the Marx Brothers. They all their nicknames end in O. There was Harpo, Chico, Zeppo, Gummo, and Groucho. Okay, those are the 5 Marx Brothers. And so I created Darko Marx, and my persona was I was the illegitimate child of their father. So I was Darko Marx, and so I create that character to make my brother laugh. And then my brother would start making requests. He would say things like, "Okay, pretend you're a transvestite smoking a cigar at a bus station." I mean, shit like that. And I mean, those are, and so I would like come up with that stuff. But other than that, I made people laugh by accident because I was so literal about things. That when somebody said something, if somebody said, "It's raining cats and dogs," my brain, I had to process it to the women. You can't rain cats and dogs. What, and I literally had to I had to reverse engineer slang in my head because it didn't make sense. So I was only funny by accident. I didn't become funny on purpose until many, 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 many years later. So, you know, and my wife doesn't understand it. When people are talking, that is my default position. I have to translate slang, into real, to make sense. That's my default position. So a lot of times my wife starts talking, I don't realize she's joking. I'm listening to my wife because she's my wife, and I have to listen to her. I'm not expecting to laugh, and I'm trying to make sense out of what she says. And she goes, "That was funny," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I get it now." God,
Yeah. It's hard to laugh when you're like listening to the point where you're like, I don't want to miss a single thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And when you're married, you're afraid because you're going to hear that lecture.
Because if you don't react the right way, they're going to think you just weren't listening at all.
Right.
But then you don't laugh, and then you get yelled at for not laughing. And then they think you're not listening anyway. And they're like, right, that was funny.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So my wife doesn't understand it. So when she's talking, I'm not expecting. It's like when I go to a comedy club and someone's up on stage with a microphone, I'm expecting them to be funny, and I can often anticipate the next thing they're going to say because I know what they're going to do. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to make us laugh. They're trying to misdirect. That's different. But when my wife tries to make me laugh, it doesn't work the same way because that's not why I listen to my wife. I listen to my wife so I don't get in trouble. Oh, and I care about what she said.
So. As I say, also that, but to a greater extent, my safety.
Yeah. Now, who would make you nervous sitting in the audience besides the person behind you? No. Who would make you nervous sitting in the audience?
Legitimately, it would have to be probably one of the comics that I had mentioned. Somebody who I consider has made it. Just because there's always that. I mean, in this industry, remarks from certain people can help you out, right? Like if you can get a good recommendation from an arena selling out comedian, like that's going to look good on a resume. So, if somebody relevant was in the audience whose opinion could make or break me, that would make me nervous for sure. So, again, if it was somebody along the lines of somebody I like Shane Gillis, Anthony Jeselnik, at one point, Chris D'Elia would have been scary to me. Now I just would roast him the whole time. But there's a lot of them that, their opinion matters to me. So that's what would make me nervous for sure.
Now, I know you're going to have to leave soon because your kids are on their way home, right?
They in about half hour or so, give or take.
Oh, I was thinking they came got. When I was stalking your house, I thought your kids came around 2:30. I think it's the whole time being moved back. I don't know. I thought your kids came home at 2:30. Maybe I'm watching the wrong house.
No, worst case scenario, my wife will come home, but she's not loud. It's the two little ones that are like a pack of elephants. Herd of elephants? Herd of elephants.
Yeah, it's a herd. They're too big for a pack.
That's right.
Now, so the place and you can answer this any way you want, but I prefer the truth. The places that you performed at over the years, what is the best smelling place and the worst smelling place you've ever performed at? If it helps you out, you need an example, or do you understand what I'm talking about?
No, I get what you're talking about. The best smelling and the worst smelling place. Yeah.
Right. Got it. Well, some people need examples, and I only have 2 examples. And every time I ask that question, people he's going to say that again. So I'd rather not tell that story again.
No, so the best smelling place. Man, let me think here. Okay, the best smelling place was this brewery slash what was it? It was a brewery slash seafood place. It was on a lake.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't smell like fish or anything weird, but what it smelled like garlic butter
Oh,
and biscuits.
wow. Yeah.
And it just like it's like as soon as you pulled in the parking lot, like your mouth, like your jaw would hurt because of how hard it was watering. Like,
Damn.
and you go inside and it was ridiculous. Like it almost was too distracting. Worst smelling place was the place in Kansas City. I've never been in a grosser dive bar. They still allowed smoking inside. It was it felt like I was performing in a 1995 dive bar. It was the worst smelling thing. It was like BO, dirty ass, cigarettes, stale beer, and then what I only hope was some sort of fish sandwich being made in the back. Yeah.
Now, what is the worst? What is the most awkward person you've had to follow, or most awkward? You don't have to name. You don't have to mention their names, but the most awkward routine or comedian that you had to follow on stage.
Um the most
It
awkward
doesn't have to be
was
bad. Just awkward. Just to like maybe
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
it could be. It could be
No,
bad. Just okay.
no. So there's a comic in town who she is hilarious, but her character is very like the best comparison is like Droopy Dog, but a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? You know, just real monotone, real just no energy in the voice. She's hilarious, impossible to follow because while she makes while the room laughs and they love her, she doesn't end on a proper note. So she'll just be like, "Okay, bye," and just walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and you have to. It's like it's like she's taking all the laughs, and then she just like elbow drops it, and just like, "All right, now you have to revive it. Have fun."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh man, and again, she's hilarious. I've even recommended her to people. She's hilarious, but she's really hard to follow. And man, oh, it's so bad because again, her jokes are like they're kind of dark. You know, there's some SA in there. You know, there's a whole lot of darkness in her jokes, and then it's hilarious. But man, it's so hard to do that. I don't get it. Makes me jealous a little bit, honestly, because I feel like if she could get to that point where she could headline, like she'd have to headline just because nobody would want to follow her.
It's there's I'm trying to think. I now as far as people that you've had to other than that, I mean, I think I'm pretty sure that it seems like every comedian has had like at least one fight break out while they're doing a set. At least if they're performing in a bar, not necessarily a club. I mean, clubs just happened also. I mean, Christopher Titus, like last time he was in Baltimore, not the last time, but the time before last, because he was just in Baltimore. But a year ago, they had a huge fight at a comedy club where he was performing. A huge fight. So, have you had like a fight break out in the bar, and do you when it's over, do you like do they first of all do they count those minutes against you? Like you get 15 minutes, like oh, and 5 minutes of that was the fight, so you got 10 minutes left.
So, legitimately, I've not had that happen during one of my sets.
Okay.
However, I was the reason for one comedian to go off stage and immediately get into a fight and then be banned. Um, which that story is real quick. Basically, the comic decided he went on stage, saw me, and decided to not in a funny way, but just start just like being aggressive about me being in a wheelchair
Hmm.
and like nobody was laughing. And then finally I got to the point where I just started like roasting him back. But instead I took over his whole 5 minutes of roasting him back. And then he got off the stage and then security was like, listen, you weren't even trying to be funny. You were just being a really hateful asshole. You got to go. And he tossed something at me. The security had to wrestle him to the floor and then take him. And
Hmm.
then I went up like two people after him. And then I was mad that he got kicked out because I really wanted to make fun of him during my 5 minutes, which I still did. But it would have been better that he heard it because I don't like to talk behind people's backs. I prefer to deliver the blow head on. So, but no,
Okay.
my luckily, I I'm very blessed in the fact that I've never had a set interrupted by a fight or medical emergency yet, and I have yet to bomb in person. I've bombed during a Zoom mic, but I've never gone on stage and not gotten laughs. I've never have that has that happened. I've gone on and had a couple jokes fall flat, but I've been able to recover on the spot enough. But I've never full out and gone and bombed, and I will tell you that that scares the shit out of me because what that tells me is that when it happens, it's gonna happen when it matters, and it's gonna fuck me. It's how I feel about it, because everybody bombs, and I
Yeah,
it's gonna happen, and it scares me.
I've never had a bad show. I've had a bad couple of minutes where I've had to revive or reboot or something,
Yeah.
it's always worse for my wife than for me, because my wife goes, "Oh my god, it went on forever." I said, "No, it was like a minute." And it just, it was 30. I said, "No, it was 40 seconds." I know because when it happened, I walked over, I got some water, and I took a little drink. Said, "Okay, what am I going to do?" And I set the drink down. I said, "It doesn't take 30 minutes for me to get a drink of water." That's like, so that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
And so I've never had like a bad show. I've had a bad minute or two, but um, I'm sure as a comedian, you've gotten a lot of advice, good and
Oh
bad.
yeah.
So, and also comments from audiences. Now, the comments from the audience is what matters to me more than what other comedians say. So,
Mhm.
what's the best thing an audience member said to you after a show, and what is the worst thing, even if they thought they were helping you, that they may have said something like, "You're really funny. It's a shame you can't walk." Something like that. I'm just, whatever the best and worst comments of audience members said. You found that
Yeah.
funny when somebody said that to you. You'd really be funny if you could walk. You're good, but
That'd be
think
great.
of how funny you'd be if you could walk. No.
So the best one I got was I had this bit where I talked because self-deprecating humor is like what my favorite thing. Um and I had this bit where I talked about how I hate it's where I talk about how I hate having my picture taken. It was part of my stage fright.
Right.
And after the show, she came up and she goes, "You need to stop worrying about how people look at you. They're gonna see you how they see you. Just worry about how they perceive you instead." And I was like, "What does that mean?" And then I thought about it for then I thought about it and I was like, "Okay, maybe I should just try being myself and quit trying to just look the part. Maybe actually just be the thing I'm trying to be, you know?" Cause I was like, maybe it was like, man, cause like for example, you'll notice I almost always wear a black shirt and jeans.
Right.
That was a conscious decision very early on that like I want to be known as the comic that wears the t-shirt and jeans. Why? I don't know. But it was a thing.
Because you're
And
emulating me because I always wear black shirt and black jeans.
so, but yeah, it was just a thing. But it was just one of
You're
those.
stealing my look, man. God damn it. God, no,
Well,
I'm
yeah,
just
it's all right. Like what, 5, 10 years, you'll be in a wheelchair taking my shtick, so it's fine. But it was just one of those things where it was like, man, maybe I should worry about just being myself on stage. And after I discovered how to be myself on stage, it's that piece of advice that you actually hear people repeat a lot is learn to be yourself. So
right.
that was
Yes.
important. So that one helped because I heard it from somebody who had no stake in the matter, and that it hit different. Um, the worst one was um I finished a set and a lady comes up and she goes, "You are so funny, but I really think that you should really cut back on the wheelchair humor and especially the joke about how you would never date somebody in a wheelchair. I just don't think that's right. My daughter's in a wheelchair. She'd be very offended." And I was just like, "Oh, where's your daughter?" "Oh, well, she's at home." Okay, well, how old man? Oh, she's 23. Well, why didn't you bring her? Well, the rain. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it was an inconvenience to bring your handicapped daughter out to come hear my jokes that she probably would have laughed at, but instead you're here being offended for her. Well, I don't think you need to be that disrespectful. And I was like, well, I think you should be a better mom. And then she walked away, and I was just like, okay,
Now, was that the last time you saw your mother? No, I'm just teasing. No, no.
Very similar, actually, very similar.
Now, what about the best and worst advice from someone in the business?
um, the best piece of advice I learned, what I've heard so far, has been to learn your worth, because at some point, exposure is just going to get you frostbite. You know, like at some point you have to know what your worth is. And like for me, for example, that was kind of putting up that barrier of, I will no longer do a page or a free show if I have to drive more than like 30 minutes. And the
Well, you're
reason
in
being
Indiana.
is
You have to you have to drive
exactly
more than 30 minutes
because,
to go to the bus stop.
well, I mean, outside of Fort Wayne, yeah, I mean, every city from where I live is a minimum of an hour and a half away.
All right.
And so, and then, obviously we have, the snow, we have ice and shit in the winter time. Like that all adds up, and it, it's a lot. So, learning my worth was the best piece of advice, because again, at some point, especially if you're doing this full time, like I'm doing, you need to start making money doing it. And, you know, at, again, at some point you got to be like, okay, well, just showing up to people hear my name isn't really doing anything anymore. I need to do something that's going to matter and do more and mean more.
Right.
So, and then the worst piece of advice was, don't be afraid to pay to play,
All right. Which means what?
which, which at first I took that as, oh,
You said this is the worst. The worst
yes,
advice? Okay.
yes, because what I thought they meant was, don't be afraid to do festivals and things
Okay,
like
that's
that
what I
where there's
thought.
an
That's
entry
what
fee,
right,
right?
that's what I thought you were going at.
But then
But
that person proceeded to give my name to about four or five different people who ask people to pay to come perform at their venue, where they will record it and distribute, blah 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 blah.
oh,
And I fell for that one time, paid $10 to go perform because I was told I was going to get a professionally recorded set, and it turned out it was a guy with an iPhone. And so I was like, never again. Never again will I pay to go do a mic or anything like that.
now there was a mic that I used to go to years ago where the mic was free, but they
Mhm.
would, if you wanted them to record your set, and and they it was pretty decent recording, because the mic was going. They had the mic for the crowd, mic for the audience, and a mic for you, and they were both going into a board into the camera, so it was
But see,
decent
that would be
quality.
worth paying for.
And so if you wanted that, that was like $10. But
And
if
that
you
makes
just
sense
came
to
to the
me.
mic, if you came to the mic just and no recording, it was free.
No, these
I'm
guys,
not
these
saying yeah.
these guys literally, they'll say $5 to come perform. You give him $5. Then he goes, okay, it's another $5 if you want me to record it. So it's $10 to perform and have it recorded, right? But then you show up, and you still have to buy water. You have to, there's no any benefits to going there at all. And then you get the video, and it's literally just a guy with an iPhone recording it. And like, it's no, it was horrible. And he takes advantage of all of these new comics and these new musicians and these new rappers and artists, and he's like, come get this massive exposure. And it's a room of like 30 stoners with an iPhone and a microphone with a speaker, and you go perform. And it's a trap is what it is.
Well,
And
I
it's
actually
horrible.
that open mic I kind of miss because that open mic was probably one of the better open mics that I used to go to at least early in my career.
But you're offering
Um,
something worth value. I mean,
yeah,
they're offering a well recorded set that you can use to submit somewhere. This shit looked so bad It looked like Helen Keller was trying to record it. It made no sense to me, and
Yeah,
it was just mind blowing. And like
but they.
one, there was another mic I paid for, which I would absolutely pay again, and that was at the end of the night, the audience would vote on who the top comic was. Top comic got a prize, which was half of what everyone paid.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So you could potentially go there and win 200-300 bucks. All because there's 20 comics that showed up. So it was worth going and throwing a few bucks in because it was like, hey, I might have a chance to make some extra money tonight. And then generally, if you won that, then the booker would also potentially, hey, I got a show coming up. You want to open or guest spot or whatever. So, but that led somewhere, not just give me your money. Because what he was doing, he was charging the comics and the artists, and
Right.
charging the audience, and charging the vendors, and then the audience and the artists and everyone had to come in. They would buy from the vendors because there was no free food, nothing comped, nothing anything. Like it was just basically all feeding into his pocket, which good for him, but
Yeah.
never again.
That's cool. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm not saying cool that it was cool. I mean, I understand that,
No,
and then
I
I
get what
also
you're
feel the
saying.
same way. I also feel the same way. Like, well, good for him, but he's yeah. But as a consumer, as a comedian, it's like you fucking ripping us off. But as a
Yeah,
business person,
it
like,
just
okay,
feels
yeah,
sleazy, it's one of those things where it's more of a principle thing, which is why it pisses me off, I guess, so much. It's because again, people do it. Obviously, they don't care. They're giving him money, but to me, as a performer, it seems sleazy.
now, what's the longest that you've worked on a premise without giving up on it? I mean, like I don't know if you need an example, just say so. But like, and you have an idea in your head, and you like, I know this can be funny, and you try it, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't land, and you rework it, and you try it again, and you're like, but god damn it, I believe in this. This is fucking funny. You just haven't figured out the formula yet. What's the longest you've had to work on something to get it right?
So this joke is one that is half true, but it took me a while, but I finally used it 2 weeks ago, and it I got laughs. So I know there's
Mm-hmm.
finally something there. But basically, here I'll just read it as I have it written, if that's okay.
Oh, okay. Sure. I was not expecting a live
Yeah, no,
performance.
I'll read it as it's written, and you'll see. So my dad found out that I was masturbating as a kid because I left little cummy tire tracks from my room to the bathroom. It was really hard to argue with that kind of evidence. Now, the way I write my jokes is I write them like that, but then when I do them on stage, I usually reword them over and
Right. Yeah.
over
Oh, yeah.
again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So while I don't say it exactly like that, I finally used this premise and it worked. And but I've been working on this legitimately for 2.5 months.
Wow. That's nothing.
And
No, I'm
it,
just
it
teasing.
and
No,
it,
I'm just teasing. No, no, I'm just. I have one. I have one that I've been wanting to do since I started doing comedy, and it's only within the last 6 months, that I've actually been able to get it, and I got it by accident.
oh
But
no
go ahead.
way.
No,
No, that's awesome. No, I just the funny thing is the reason this came up was I was playing video games with my buddy, and we were playing a racing game, and we went from snow to concrete, and you left white tire tracks, and my buddy was like, haha, look, little cummy tire tracks, and I was like, that's funny. And I wrote it down, and then I had this vague dream of my dad walking in on me with one of his magazines when I was like 13. And I was like, these would work together. There's got to be something there. And it took a while, but I finally got it to work, and I was really happy about it. And it was the first time that I was like, wow, this is real comedy. Little cummy tire tracks.
Thank you for watching this portion of our interview with Stephen the Sitcom Ortiz. Please join us for our conclusion, and when you do, bring a friend.